How balanced do you feel in your root chakra? Do you know how to tell? So, when the root chakra is out of balance, we may feel anxiety, we may feel ungroundedness, perhaps have difficulty sleeping, worries about money and finances, and just an overall sense of not feeling comfortable in your body. But when we work to balance this important energetic center, not only do we feel more stable and secure, but we also make it easier to access the higher spiritual energetic centers. So, Merry Meet, I'm AIslin. This is Ask AIslin, and we are here tonight talking about how to balance the root chakra. So, welcome to those who are joining us live. Say hi in the chat. Let me know that you are here. And of course, as always, we have a Q&A at the end. You can leave questions and comments in the chat for the Q&A, and I will answer all of those at the end. So merry meet, and let me know too if the microphone is working. The test earlier had it working, so hopefully it is working now, and we are going to dive in. Also, make sure to leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed, and that way we make sure we get this out to more people. All right. So we are going to begin by talking about a little bit, just a little review on the root chakra. And Stephanie said the mic is sounding good, so that is excellent news. Thank you for letting me know. And welcome to Stephanie and also others who are here. I see Kurt and Cindy are also here. Nancy, Merry Meet, and Merry Meet to anybody else who's also here. All right, so let's talk just briefly about what the root chakra is, and then we're going to spend the most of tonight talking about ways to balance the root chakra. Hopefully, you will leave here with a better understanding of how balanced your root chakra is and what you can do to improve that. In my opinion, the root is one of the most important, if not the most important chakra, because it is the foundation of the entire system. And Mary meet to Pamela as well. So the root chakra is Muladhara in Sanskrit. This translates to root support. Just those two words tell us a lot about what the function of the root is. It supports us. It gives us stability and security. If you think about a tree needs to grow down its roots first before it can lift up into the sky. If roots are not deep enough, then the foundation isn't solid enough, and sometimes that can lead to problems, and the same goes with us. So the root itself, the root chakra, is located at the base of the spine, and it is important to note that the chakra system is not in the physical body, it is in the energetic body, or sometimes we'll say the etheric body. But there are connections between the physical body and the energetic body. They're intricately linked, which is why we can look at our physical body and we can see the imbalances in the energetic body just simply by looking at it, looking at how you feel, looking at parts of your body where you have aches and pains. Now, because the root is connected to the base of the spine, um, it is also connected to all of the lower parts of your body. So your pelvic area, also connected to the sacral chakra, which we will talk about in a future episode, but your legs, your knees, your feet, your toes. So if you have struggles in any of those areas, then likely you have energetic imbalances in the root. And so what we're going to talk about tonight will greatly help you. That is just the physical aspect of it, though. You might also feel emotional issues connected to the root, like over worrying, excess anxiety, difficulty sleeping, like I mentioned in the intro. Again, all of these things can be fixed at least in some way, by working with our root. Now, as I mentioned, the root is the foundation of the entire system. So if we don't balance the root, it is unlikely that we will be able to balance the other chakras effectively. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't work with the other chakras, but because this is the beginning point, if we start kind of rootless, then your growth will be rootless, right? So if we jump directly to the higher centers because we want to open up our intuition, we want to connect to deities, we want to advance our magical practice and our spell work, we'll find that we make progress by working on those upper chakras. But if we leave the root kind of untouched and don't focus on it, then again, that growth will be rootless for us. Now, the root chakra is associated with the physical body. So, of all the chakras, every chakra is associated with different kind of aches and pains and different areas in your body where you may have physical problems. But the root, especially, is connected to your entire physical body. It's connected to your health, connected to your survival, basic needs, money, security. So if you find that you have any issues in any of those areas, then the root chakra is one that you will want to focus on. And a lot of times I tell people especially when people are first coming to study the chakras, really start at the beginning, start at the root. That's why we're going to do our study of how to balance the chakra system, starting at the root and then eventually moving up to the crown, but moving through all of the different energetic centers. Now, the root is also the resting place of our kundalini. So, your Kundalini is the dormant serpent energy in your body. It is located at the root chakra, at the base of the spine. People say it's coiled around the base of the spine like a snake, which is why we call it the serpent energy. So, upon Kundalini awakening or Kundalini, kind of spontaneous Kundalini energetic rising, that energy rises through the root and it accelerates through the other chakras and eventually exits out the top of the head, leaving people feeling this sense of oneness with the universe. So, it's one thing to talk about it, like, oh, yeah, I know that we're all one, but to actually experience that oneness can often happen during the Kundalini awakening. Here, the Shakti energy in your body, which is like the divine feminine energy, seeks to reach the Shiva energy of the sky and have union with that energy. And that is the result of the bliss that we feel when the energy is moving properly. Now, we don't have to have a full on Kundalini awakening or Kundalini acceleration of our energy to feel this energy moving through our body or to make progress in our spiritual work. It can come as a result. But it can be a benefit at the end of all of this practice. Now, since the chakras, since this particular chakra is related to our survival needs, we also really need to make sure that our needs are met when we start here. So we can start doing all of these practices that I'm going to talk about during this episode, but you really do want to pay attention to your basic needs. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of you have probably seen it before. It looks like a pyramid, and each layer is a level of needs that need to be met for a person to eventually find actualization. That's all the way at the top. But at the very bottom of the pyramid is your ability to find food and water and air and eventually to find a safe and secure place to live. And so if these needs are not met, then we, again, are going to have issues of the root. So it's really important for us to think about this because my opinion is that I've rarely met a person who didn't have some kind of root chakra issues. And it's not to say anything negative about people, it's just simply the time period that we have chosen to incarnate into. It's prevalent disordered eating and eating disorders. So skipping meals, not eating the right things, starving and then binging, things like that, feeling hungry, restricting yourself from the things you want, not eating foods that are good for your body. So all of this, very prevalent in the society, right? And so that's immediately going to impact the root. Rushed and we are a rushed and impatient society. We demand answers now. We demand change now. We demand everything at the tip of our fingers, right? Because it's the world that has been created around us. But it isn't really the greatest energy for establishing a good root chakra. So you have to know like what we're working against or what is working against us rather in order for us to work in a way to benefit our own energetic system. We are a society that overworks and doesn't sleep enough, right? We are a society that lives in fear because we are in a tumultuous world that only seems to be getting more and more tumultuous every day. So again, there's nothing we can necessarily do about the world that we've chosen to incarnate into, but we can do something about our root, right? And what it really means is that we're going to have to do extra work on our root chakra in order to make sure that it's balanced in a way that's effective for us and allows us to open up to those higher energy centers. So this is more and more crucial to do so, especially in time periods when we're feeling a lot of anxiety, we're feeling a lot of uncertainty and instability. When you start to feel that in your life, like whether it's your personal life or it's the world outside of you, it means return to the root. Return to where you can find your grounding. If you have lots of health problems, also, that's another indication that the root chakra is one that you want to work on. If you have financial and security issues, again, this is going to be an indication that the root is one to work on. Worries and fears, whether they are realistic or not, they are housed in the root. And you also will probably want to do more work here if you're having trouble with sleep issues. The things that make it difficult to really care for your body, right? So think about your self-care. If our self-care is lacking, it's these lower chakras that we need to work with. Now, additionally, on top of all of this, highly spiritual people, which are the people who are going to be attracted to a channel like this, to a group like this, are often upper chakra dominant. So we grew up kind of already having this ability to perhaps see through the veils, communicate with deities, communicate with nature spirits, fairies, elementals, right? And so we're already up here. Perhaps we're intuitive. We are, magically inclined. We're already up in these upper chakras is where I'm going with this. And what that means, we're upper chakra dominant. So we're going to have to pay attention to our root so we make sure that we're also grounded in our growth. We need to learn how to navigate the downward movement of energy, not just the upward one. We need both in order to be balanced. Really, to me, all chakras are about balance, but the root in particular, it all comes back to the root. So, we are going to spend the rest of the episode talking about ways to balance the root chakra so we can really dive in and focus on those. But if you feel that you want to learn more about the root chakra and the chakra system in general, I invite you to check out. We have other videos on the Body Mind Witchcraft YouTube channel that go into more detail about the root chakra. We also have, in particular, like how to know if you have issues with the root chakra. And also consider joining our Shadow Seekers membership, where we dive much more deeply into the chakra system, how we can heal and how we can balance it. And we will be opening up next month. Okay, but let us move forward now and let's talk about how to balance your root. And I also am always interested how people are feeling with their root chakras. So you could feel free to share in the chat. Do you feel that your root is balanced? Do you feel that your root is imbalanced? How do you know it's imbalanced? We'd love to hear from you. And also saying hi to AIslin and Amy, who have also joined us. So merry meet everybody. So whose root is balanced? Whose root is not balanced? And let's dive in. Okay, so how do we balance the root chakra? So these 10 ideas are in no particular order. So the first one is working with the earth element. Now, the root chakra is connected to the element of earth. So here is where we, at least with these bottom 5 chakras, which are all connected to the elements, we are able to do some significant work simply by working with that element. So if you begin to work with the earth element, you are also doing work on your root chakra even without knowing it. You don't even have to be focused on the root. Doing work with the earth element will have you working on your root. Now, how do we work with the root? How do we work with the earth element? So many of you probably know you've been on the witchcraft path for a while, and so you probably have some work practices you use to work with the earth element. We'd love to hear from you. Share those in the chat, whether you're live or you're in replay. Know that your input always helps other people who are in the chat and watching this live or watching it later. We'd love to hear from what you guys do. So here's some ideas that I have for working with the earth element. Number one is grounding practices. We just really can't do much better than grounding. Grounding is excellent for the root chakra. It's excellent for the earth element. So one thing that you can do is first is ask yourself, how grounded do you feel? Okay, so that would be like my first question. Sometimes it can be difficult, especially if a person is sort of newer to working with energy. They may not know how to answer that question. But just think about it. How grounded do you feel? Okay, so if you have a lot of scattered thoughts, if you have a lot of anxiety and worry, we're up here. We've got more air energy going on, right? And less root chakra energy and earth energy going on. If instead you feel very stable and secure and very peaceful and kind of unmoved by things that occur, sway you back and forth. Maybe you feel you may sway back and forth like a tree, right? A really grounded tree. It has good roots that ground it into the soil. Now it can still sway back and forth, but when the winds come, it doesn't break. It just bends, right? It doesn't break. Uh, One way to know that we are kind of lacking earth energy and having imbalances in the root is if you notice when those winds come, in this sense, metaphorical winds of like the changes in your life or things that are there to kind of disrupt you, if they really undo you, if they really break you, then that can be an indication that the root chakra and the earth element need some work, and that you are a little too ungrounded, right? So one way, here's some grounding practices that we can do. So the grounding tree is probably like the quintessential grounding practice. There's many versions of the grounding tree meditation out there. You can look for them on YouTube. You'll find them there. If you are in Shadow Seekers, we have at least one version of it in the membership portal. So if anybody's a Shadow Seekers member looking for it and can't find it, reach out to me and let me know. And I have plans to add another version of it as well. But for those who don't know, the grounding tree is a meditation generally where you visualize or you imagine roots growing out of your body down into the soil. I like to have the roots then connect to the roots of a very stable tree. And then you sort of begin breathing in and out earth energy, pulling earth energy up into your body, and then releasing any kind of negative tension that you don't want to carry with you. And you do this for a period of time. And by connecting to the earth in this way, you're going to change your energy. You're going to feel more grounded. So if you are somebody who's feeling pretty ungrounded, I would seek that out. Go to YouTube, Grounding Tree Meditation, or if you're in Shadow Seekers, look for our version of it. Other things that we can do to find grounding or to work with the earth element is setting up an earth altar. So if you already have an altar at your house, you can place items connected to the earth element on it. Crystals and stones are always good. A bowl of salt, a bowl of soil, all of those work really well. Or use your intuition. What is it that is symbolic of the earth element to you, and place those items on your altar. Now you can change out your normal altar. This is like kind of my regular working altar. You could change that out and put the earth element items on that, or you can build your very own earth altar specific just to the earth element. If you're going to do that, I would suggest putting that altar in the north, facing north in whatever room you're going to place it in, or if it's outside, face it north because that is the direction that's typically connected to the earth element. Other things that you can do to connect to the earth is spend time in nature, right? That makes sense. Especially places like going deep into places where you're really immersed in nature, like forests, caves. If you can find a cave that you can go into, particularly connected to the earth element because of you have to go down, right, down into it to, you're basically entering the belly of the earth when you do so. Also think about doing rituals outdoors. So if you are somebody who always does your rituals indoors, think about doing them outdoors as a way to connect to the earth element. Earthing is also a really great way to connect to the earth. Earthing, if you don't know about earthing is where you take off your shoes and typically your socks as well, and you walk barefoot, usually in on the earth, right? So on the grass or on sand. I love to do it on sand at the beach. But also there is this connection to the earth that you already find just by being barefoot or in your like socks in your house, just not wearing shoes in the house. So I never wear shoes in my house for this reason, because I feel more grounded when I am barefoot. And I wear socks because it's cold on the floor here, the tile and things. But But earthing is very good for stimulating the chakras that are on the bottom of the foot, and so therefore stimulating the root chakra, and very grounding practice. Cooking and eating seasonally is another way to work with the earth element. So really noticing what is in season. Usually the easiest way to find what's in season in your area is to go to farmers markets or places where people are selling the fresh produce that they have just harvested, or to see what's on sale at the grocery store in the produce section. That will usually be an indication of something that is in season. It doesn't mean that you have to eat only in season all the time, but if you make it a habit to be eating some foods that are in season, or at least being cognizant of eating in season, that is going to help you connect to the earth. And then I will talk a little bit more about movement and yoga as movement later on, as a way to connect to the root chakra or balance the root chakra. But a few poses that are particularly good for the earth element is child pose. So if you are a yogi or somebody who practices yoga, you probably know what child pose is. Very, very grounding, very earth centered. If you don't know what it is, you can Google it and you'll find a picture of it. Also, any belly down poses are very, very grounding. And you don't even have to be doing yoga to do belly down. So like I have found, if you are tossing and turning, at least for me, if I'm tossing and turning and unable to sleep, I usually sleep on my back and I do just fine. But if I really can't sleep, if I go down on my belly, especially if I'm having a lot of anxiety, it can be very grounding to have your belly down on the ground. Also, bringing your forehead down to the ground as well. So if you're belly down and then bring the forehead down, or you're in some kind of a pose and you bring the forehead down, or bringing your forehead down to a surface, even if that surface is like your arm, that's also very grounding, because what it does is it basically grounds your third eye. And so this is actually a good moment to talk about the connection between the third eye and the root. So one of the reasons, look, not just this idea that the root is the foundation of the energetic system that makes it so important for like waking up the upper spiritual centers, but there's literally a connection between the third eye and the root. This comes from the fact that we have three main energetic channels. Those of you who've been following me for a while, you know this already, but for those who don't know or those who need a review, we have three main energetic channels in the body. We have the Sushumna, which is sort of like your energetic spine. It goes up next to the spinal cord, and it's the energetic side of that, right? And then we have the Ida and the Pingala. So the Ida is your feminine energy channel, and the Pingala is your masculine energy channel, and they interweave around each other, never touching. They touch in the beginning at the root, and they never touch again till they get to the third eye. So because of those two channels, we have this direct connection between the third eye and the root. So this is why, if you want to really expand your intuition, the first step is to make sure you're grounded. And then once you're grounded, then you can move forward with, doing more elevating practices. All right, so that is our first idea, working with the earth element. And I'm just going to go into the chat. Let's see what people are saying about how their root chakras are feeling. So Stephanie says she needs to continue working on her root. Jen says hers is a disaster. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't surprise me, especially where we are right now, just generally in the world. It doesn't surprise me to hear this from people, and then that's compounded by any other individual things that are going on in your life too. Kurt says his feels connected today better than usual lately, so that's great news. And it's also very good, very smart to be able to say something like that, because it means that you have gained um, kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just you're cognizant of where your energy is at any given time, so you're aware of when you're less connected to the root and when you're more connected. So that's a very good sign that you are able to articulate that. um, Stephanie says she feels the need to ground a lot throughout the day. And that's important too, because especially if we have lifestyles and jobs and various different things that sort of knock us off kilter, right, and unground us, we may need to ground periodically through the day. So hopefully some of these practices, like maybe at work you don't want to get belly down and put your forehead on the ground necessarily, but there are other practices that we can talk about tonight, that we'll talk about tonight, that are a little bit more discreet, that you can do. If you notice you need like a root chakra break every once in a while in your day, you'll be able to try some of these practices. Um, Jen says she goes barefoot anywhere that shoes aren't required. Me too. I've done that for years. It just helps me feel like just that very simple act, even if I'm doing nothing else, that very simple act helps me feel grounded. Taliesin says his is imbalance, anxiety, not much appetite, working on it though. Yeah, very good. Said he haven't been able to get out as much, so focusing on making a nice outside space. Yeah. And so the thing is too is, as it gets warmer, I know that you're down in the south, so you're not quite as affected by the cold weather as some people in the north parts uh, of the world are, but it's going to be a little bit easier to get outdoors now for everybody. But yeah, I think too, focusing on making a nice outside space inclines you to go out more because you already spent the energy making it. So it's a really great idea to kind of set that up, and then it's encourage you to go outside more, but also very good for you to note anxiety, not much appetite, things like that. Yeah, those are root chakra issues. Um, and Taliesin said, such a good meditation, referring to the grounding tree, probably. Yeah, it's such a good one. To me, it's like the quintessential grounding practice, probably. So Cindy says, definitely having issues with the root chakra. She says, my body's been hurting, swelling in the joints. She said she has psoriatic arthritis, and it's in full bloom now. Medication not helping. She just decided to stop take it and focus more on natural energy. Yeah, so definitely arthritis of any kind, including psoriatic arthritis, is connected to the root, and anything with the joints and bones connected to the root. Anything with the teeth. I have a lot of like dental problems and gum problems. Anything like that. If you have any of those issues, those are also connected to the root. But it's good that to be able to see sort of where are the imbalances in the physical body that we connect to that energetic body. And and focusing on your natural energy hopefully will help you feel a little bit better. And then hopefully there's also traditional medical treatments that they can help you with too. So I'm always a big fan of both, of working with traditional, Western medicine, and also some of these more natural practices. I think they help. They can complement each other, right? Kurt never wears shoes in the house. Chelsea said her root is a mess, a lot of anxiety. Yeah. So it not doesn't surprise me. And the other thing too is, I always think about this is sometimes people kind of despair when we start talking about it, and they start, oh my God, I have that, and I have that, and I have that, and they start to despair about where they are with their energy. And to me, it's what it's really doing is it's showing us, okay, well, here's an issue, and now here are solutions. So we always have something we can do to work on it, as long as we're patient, because again, energetic balancing isn't a quick practice. It's a longer practice. Kurt says he prefers the fall. He doesn't like the heat. I love the heat. Which is why I'm here in California, Southern California. But I get it. A lot of people don't like the heat and prefer fall. Pamela says she's feeling very unbalanced and so grateful for today's workshop. Yeah, totally. So it doesn't surprise me. Again, don't despair if you're feeling like your root is really unbalanced. Okay, just take home message here is just pick a couple of practices from tonight, start implementing them, and really make a concerted focus here. And I think you're going to find that your energy is going to shift. Okay, so you can keep it coming in the chat, anything you're relating to, practices you've tried. Let's talk about the next idea, which is working with the color red. So every chakra has a color that is associated with it. There is some disagreement about this. I saw this article once where someone tried to say there were no colors to the chakras. The reality is that people who can see auras generally see the colors of the chakras. So we know that there's some evidence of this. And for those of us who, like personally, I can't see auras, and for those of us who can't see auras, being able to visualize or at least imagine these colors is a way to help us connect to the chakra, even if we can't see or the aura colors ourselves. We can still potentially see them with our internal mind when we close our eyes and we sort of focus on that part of the energetic center. So the color that is associated with the root, as I said, is red. It is said that the root vibrates with the color red. And so what we're essentially doing when we're working with the color red is we're trying to vibrate in sympathy with the color of the root, essentially entrain with the root. We're trying to vibrate in the same way that it does. So here are some thoughts. Sometimes people don't think about this one, but eat red foods. Red foods vibrate with the energy of the root chakra. So berries, tomatoes, red bell peppers. Great news is we're moving into further into spring and eventually into summer when all of those foods will become more in season, and really knock yourself out with those and really think about the color red, how to bring that into your diet. This is unrelated to the color red, but because we're talking about eating right now, different types, different food groups are connected to the chakras, and the food group that is connected to the root is protein and meat. So very grounding, but other foods that are also essentially are especially grounding are like root vegetables. So potatoes, squash. Squash is a root vegetable, right? No, no, it's not, is it? Sweet potatoes, turnips, rutabagas, parsnips. So root vegetables, carrots. These are all going to be connected to the root chakra. So you don't have to just eat red foods. But eat grounding foods. That can be particularly good for your root and for your grounding. So coming back to the color though, red candles. So when you're working on the root chakra, so a lot of people in the chat are saying that the root is an issue for them. So, and I just went into the chat to look at the chat, and I saw that Amy said she just had a red velvet cupcake, and yeah, she laughs, but yeah, it's red. It is connected to the root, and it's probably comforting. So that's the other thing too, is like finding comfort is also part of balancing our root chakra. Um, Atelier said he is vegetarian. So glad. Yeah, and with vegetarianism, I am too. And but you can eat any proteins to help you ground as well. Yeah, and all those root vegetables and stuff. Um, so I was going to the chat though for something. Well, anyway, I lost my train of thought there. But the as we can see, we have many people who are having root chakra issues. So here's what you could do. Suppose that you decide, I am going to work on the root chakra for the next week or so, or the next 2 weeks, or maybe I'll work on it for the next lunar cycle. And you make that commitment. This is my work for this time. So you could build a root chakra altar or an earth element altar, or you could place items connected to the root or connected to the earth element on your altar. You could get a red candle, and you could set an intention that this is my time to work on the root chakra, and this is the kind of the energetic balancing that I'm focused on right now. And you could burn that candle down a little bit each day. You can bring more red into your clothing. So red clothing will also vibrate with the energy of the root chakra. Red stones and red jewelry. So I've always loved garnet as my favorite stone for the root chakra, but I think ruby zoisite, ruby is very good, just red ruby. But ruby zoisite is particularly good because what I love about it is it has so it has the red of the ruby and the green of the zoisite. And so green connects us to the earth energy, right? And red connects us to the root chakra. So that's a particularly great stone for the root. Bloodstone is another fabulous one for a similar reason. And then there's other stones that are not necessarily red, but while we're talking about stones, the lodestone and hematite are very good for the root, and also any black stones are connected to the root. So black tourmaline, onyx, obsidian, also really great stones for your shadow work. but also very good for the root. So you can think about bringing those stones into your magical practice, placing them on your altar, wearing them as jewelry, carrying them with you, placing them under your pillow when you go to bed. Another way to work with those stones is to place them on your body. And so it's if you are working with stones on your body as you're balancing chakras, it's easier to do like the heart and the solar plexus and the sacral. The root's a little tough, right? Because it's your tailbone. The tip of your tailbone is essentially where it's energetically located. So how are you going to put a stone at the tip of your tailbone? But what you can do is, because the legs and the knees and the feet are connected to the root, you can place the stones on your legs or on your feet. And you lay down and you can kind of meditate with those and just let your body absorb the energy of those stones. You can also, if you are into making like gemstone elixirs, you can also put stones in water as long as they're water safe. I think the ones I mentioned were, but if they're not, you can correct me if I'm wrong about any of those. But you can place them in water, let the water infuse with the energy of those stones, and then you can do what you want with that water. You can spray it around you. People even drink it, and then they intake some of that energy of those stones. And then you can decorate your house with red. So any way that you can think of bringing the color red into your space, you are going to be connecting to the root chakra. Okay, so kind of connected to that, because we were talking about setting up altars, sort of working with stones. Another thing that we can do is work with deities that are connected to the earth. So if you are somebody who works with deity in your practice, any deity connected to the earth is also going to be connected to the root chakra. So there are particular deities who are especially connected to the root. So the one that comes to mind is Ganesha. Ganesha is said to live in the root chakra of all people. So even if you are not a devotee to Ganesha, it's said that he still lives in your root. He is your stability and your security. So he is a great god to work with if you're trying to balance your root chakra. Gaia, any goddesses connected to the earth, Pachamama, one of my favorites, Demeter or Ceres, Caradwin, Dumuzi or Tammuz, Mesopotamian deities, Danu, a Celtic deity, and then Tialtu, who is Lug's mother, who is often celebrated at Lunaza. It's said that she is the embodiment of the earth. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. So there's plenty of other earth deities you can work with, but these are some that you can choose. And so let's say you've committed to a week of working with the root, or maybe a couple weeks, or a lunar cycle. You could choose one of these deities to also bring into the practice and honor during that time, and just see how many ways you can layer these practices on. Now, remember, you only need to do a few things, but you can also layer these and really sort of embody that earth energy and make a commitment to working with it during this time. Okay, so next idea is movement. So remember that the earth element and the root chakra in particular is connected to your physical body. So, and we will be talking about the sacral chakra next week. We're going to be talking about the sacral chakra, and then we'll take a break from chakras to talk about some other things and then come back to them. But um, the sacral chakra, where it's more connected to your emotional body, the root is connected to your physical. So you need to get your body moving. Okay, so good news is, if you're watching this live, or like, kind of around the time this is recorded, we're moving into spring and summer, and it makes it easier to move. It's harder. It can be very hard in the winter, especially if you live in a place where there's not a lot of sun. We are affected by seasonal affective disorder. Many people, just the lack of sunlight can make people feel depressed, and it's cold outside, and it's just hard to move, right? But now we're in Aries season. There's fire now, so it can get us kind of moving, and getting our body moving is so good for the root chakra. So probably the hands down, the most important thing when we're talking about body movement is finding an exercise that you like. So the last thing that we want you to do is to pick an exercise or movement that you dread or you hate. so that you're just forcing yourself to do it. This is when you find a form of movement that you like, this should be fun. So like, I never dread my yoga practice. It's never drudgery. It's sometimes it's how can I fit it in because there's so much going on, but it's something I love so much. And the same goes with mountain climbing and hiking. What I hate is running. So even though I was a runner when I was growing up, I hate it. I hated it then and I hate it now. And so I remember there was this time I was trying, kind of fell out of shape. This is about probably 10 years ago or so. I fell kind of out of shape and then I started to run again. I'm like, oh my God, this is such drudgery. Some people love it, and but it's just not for me. And so that is not the energy we want to create. We want to create energy of looking forward to it and wanting to move more. So find a practice that you like. It could be hiking, it could be walking, it could be yoga, it could be any form of yoga, it could be swimming, it could be dance, it can be stomping your feet and kicking, just doing something to get your body moving. But the more that we take care of our body, the way that we move our body, oftentimes the more balanced we are going to find that root chakra becomes. Now, if you are somebody who is into yoga, I am going to mention a few yoga postures here. There's a lot of information about yoga and the chakras because the chakra system comes from the east, which is also where the yogic systems come from too. So it doesn't mean that yoga is the only way to balance the root through movement, but it is a way we're going to find a lot of information about it, a lot of writing, and it goes back thousands of years, in fact. So Tadasana, which is the mountain pose. This is for those of you who know yoga. Tree pose, Vrksasana, Vrksasana, I should say, very, very good. Apanasana. Apanasana is one that's very easy, even if you're not a yogi. Very easy and very good. So you get down on your back and you draw your knees to your chest. You can even do it in bed. And apana is one of the different vayus, which is like the air in the body. And apana is the downward current of air. So why apanasana is so good, drawing the knees to the chest, it encourages a downward flow of energy in the body. And so if you're already trying to bring the energy down to the root to work with it, then this is a great pose for you. And then an added benefit of it is it can like relieve like indigestion and gas and things like that. Malasana, which is the yogic squat, and then Balasana, which is the child pose, which we already talked about. So root chakra yoga, really good. In our Shadow Seekers membership, we do live yoga on Wednesdays. And tomorrow's practice is yoga for anxiety and tension. But it's going to be a lot of grounding, low to the ground root chakra work. So that's those in our membership have that to look forward to. But if you're not in the membership and you like yoga, just Google root chakra yoga. I particularly like Brett Larkin. She's a teacher of mine and particularly love her stuff. And she's got a lot of free stuff on YouTube. Okay, so moving away from yoga into seed sounds and chanting. Let's talk about that next. And let's see, going back to the chat, Jen said, funny that today she started designing a Ganesha decor piece for her altar. Synchronicity, totally, totally, especially because we're talking about him today and his role in the root. Sonia said she hates running too, but she likes swimming. Yeah, so it's very good to figure out what's the type of exercise you love because you're not going to dread it the way I was about the running. I did it for like that story where I returned to it like 10 years ago, I ran for like 2 or 3 days and my knees were kind of messed up. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to like find something I enjoy. And then that's when I started really, really diving back into my yoga practice. And then that like eventually led to me becoming a yoga teacher. Amanda says she always struggles to get motivated in the cold seasons. She said it's kind of like a hibernation till spring. Yeah, and the thing is too, is that energy is actually natural. It's natural to put on weight in the winter. It's natural to hibernate. Now, we're not quite like animals who need to hibernate, but it is very natural for us to do that. And where we run into trouble is when the energy still stays sluggish as we move into the spring and summer. If we can't get motivated there, then we really want to think about like how can we get moving. But yeah, it's totally natural to not be as motivated in the cold. Stephanie says swimming, dancing, kickboxing. Kickboxing is especially good. Kicking is very good because, again, the legs, like the big muscles of the legs, are connected to the root. All right, so working with seed sounds and chanting. So the seed sound of the root is lum. It is spelled Lam, but we pronounce it lum. And if you've never done any work with seed sounds, you don't know what they are. A seed sound is a syllable, so they're always a syllable, and they are not just so the idea is that Sanskrit is not like English. It's not like many languages in the world. It is not only does it their meaning in kind of the words, but it's a vibrational language, which means that when you intone a sound in Sanskrit, you change the vibrational composition inside of you. So this is the idea behind seed sounds, and what seed sounds do is that they small, short sounds that essentially change vibration. They stand for bigger things. So lum, the seed sound of the root, activates the energy of the root. Now, if you are chanting seed sounds, I've heard sometimes people like don't know how to do it, and I hear them like chanting really high up in their voice. Seed sounds are usually chanted very low in the body, so it would sound like Lum. So we really want to feel it vibrating in the body container. And with seed sounds, there is one connected to every chakra. Since we're talking about the root, we're talking about lum today. But you can vibrate that 5 or 6 times. That in and of itself can call in the energy of the root and start to help with the balancing of this chakra. Now, another seed sound worth mentioning here is the seed sound gum. Gum is spelled Gam, but we would pronounce it gum like the gum you chew. And this is the seed sound of Ganesha. So Ganesha, whose name is also Ganapate, is known can be called through the seed sound gum. So just like with the seed sound lum, where it calls in the energy of the root, the seed sound gum calls in Ganesha. Now, if you are not somebody who works with him and not somebody who wants to work with him, or maybe you're somebody who doesn't even want to work with deities, you can still think about it as calling in energy. You're calling in the energy of abundance, which Ganesha is connected to. And you're also calling in the energy that helps you remove obstacles, because Ganesha is a god who is said to remove our obstacles, whether those obstacles are here in the physical or they're in the spiritual world. He's also a deity that is often called before calling other deities, especially if you work with Hindu deities, because it's said that he basically clears the path to be able to connect to the other deities. So as I mentioned earlier, Ganesha is said to live in the root chakra of all people. So if you try that seed sound gum, I'll do it here for us once. And again, low in the body. Gum. And you can intone that 4 or 5, 6 different times if you'd like, and kind of imagine either calling in Ganesha's energy to sort of help balance your root, or call in that energy that sort of removes the obstacles to balancing your root. So that is working with seed sounds. So the next idea is working through your trauma and your issues. And now this goes for every chakra, because there is physical ways to connect to the chakra, and there's also emotional ways to work with it. So the idea is that when we have a lot of trauma, and trauma is relative to the person. So what one person calls trauma, another person may not. It's an individual matter. But when we have trauma, inevitably we will end up with some stuck and stagnant energy in the body. Now, as we work through that trauma, we will release that energy, but sometimes that energy really stays stuck. There's especially places that it stays stuck is down in the low parts of the body, stays stuck in the pelvis and the hips. It'll stay stuck in the buttocks, in the low back, in the mid back. So if you feel like you carry a lot of tension there, it's likely that at least some of it is a contribution from some kind of traumatic energy that you're just still carrying. And so this is why movement is so good, because movement helps break up this stuck and stagnant energy. But other ways to break up that energy is to work through these traumas, kind of working with analyzing where do our traumas come from, how do they affect us, analyzing your relationship with your mother or your caregiver, like your earliest relationship with them. Um, that also, because this is like the beginning of your life, right? This is in the root, they say, is the first chakra that sort of develops. Our root develops before any of the other chakras. So our earliest memories, our earliest trauma, all is going to be is going to be here in the root. You can work through your traumas by doing shadow work. And your shadow work surrounding the root might be connected to abuse or neglect or abandonment that you have suffered, whether when you were young or at any time in your life. Deep-seated fears about your survival. Remember that the root is connected to survival and stability. So if you're fearful about how am I going to survive in the future, if you have worries about money, um, that kind of working through where did those worries, where did those uncertainties come from. Accidents, surgeries, or injuries that you had, especially when you were very young, they can hold trauma in your body in various areas, especially in the root. And so, sort of getting to the core of those, like how do accidents, injuries, and illnesses affect us? Sometimes we move on from them and we think they didn't affect us, and then but they do, they persist and they affect us in some ways, and then there could sometimes be these aha moments. So like I had a very big aha moment the other day with my therapist about surgeries that I had. I've always had, I mentioned earlier with my mouth and my teeth and my gums, I've always had problems here, which is a root chakra issue. And she was asking me if I felt that all these surgeries, that I had lots of surgeries from a very young age on my mouth, uh, compounded one after another, and how does that affect me and where I am right now. So it was kind of eye-opening because I hadn't really thought about all of that in a long time, and it sort of brought some things up, and sometimes this can bring stuff up, so we always have to be aware of like when we start to go into our traumas, making sure that we're supported, that we either have a therapist or somebody to talk to, somebody that we trust, a friend even, that so we can talk through some of it, right? But sometimes it's surprising how much these things really affect us that we're kind of unaware of. Other kind of shadow work areas of the root chakra, poor boundaries. So if you're somebody who's got an inability to kind of keep and hold your boundaries, or make and hold your boundaries, that would be something to explore. Why do you have these issues? Boundaries are connected to the root and to the sacral chakra. Disconnection to parts of your body. Sometimes very spiritual people, or people who are traumatized, can feel like they're kind of living up in the head and not in the body. And so exploring where do you feel disconnected in your body, and where do you think that comes from. Limiting beliefs and narratives surrounding money. Again, money and abundance and prosperity is connected to the root. So where do those limiting beliefs really come from? A lot of times when we explore them, we learn that they're not even ours. They're ones that we've picked up perhaps from other people, from our parents, or people that we were growing up around. So if you feel that you have trauma, I would consider working with a therapist, or find a mentor group that does shadow work, like our Shadow Seekers membership. That way you at least feel you're supported, you have a safe space and a safe container where you can do this kind of work with someone. And of course, you can always do it on your own. You can always explore anything on your own. But just be aware, of what's coming up for you, and be cognizant enough to know when you need to reach out and kind of get some support and some help. And as I mentioned earlier, our Shadow Seekers membership will be opening up next month. And we haven't been open in 6 months. We haven't taken in new people. So if you've been waiting for us, our doors will be open very soon. Okay, a couple more ideas before we end here for the night. So the next idea is meditation. So finding a meditative practice that suits you is the number one thing here. So kind of going back to the discussion of exercise, we've got to find meditation. We just as we have to find exercise that suits us, we have to find meditation that suits us, and it's not one size fits all. So if you are somebody who says I can't meditate, then you probably just, my answer would be you just haven't found the right kind yet. So different types of meditation are traditional Zen meditation. So this is the meditation where you close your eyes and you clear your mind. It can be very difficult for people, especially if you didn't grow up doing it. It can be exceptionally hard. Sometimes people will do counting with Zen. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you try to keep your mind clear as you do so, and then you count back down to 1. And then if you get to a place, like let's say you get to 5, and then your mind is kind of rippling, then you just start over. And through training and through time, you can eventually learn how to clear your mind. But it's not easy, and it's not the meditation of choice for everybody. There's also guided meditation, which is probably the next most traditional form of meditation. Most people have done guided meditation. We do it a ton in Shadow Seekers and in our coven rituals. But if those types of traditional meditation don't work for you, consider walking meditation, or consider like a concentrated focus meditation where you focus on a symbol or you focus on a sigil, and you stay focused on that. Or you might do candle gazing, which is another concentrated focus meditation. You can do meditations with mantras where you, like Satanama is one of my favorite ones. It translates to birth, life, death, and rebirth. It's kind of a all around very good mantra to use. And you can do it on your fingers. Satanama, Satanama, Satanama. Not that fast. You do it kind of slow because you're trying to ground yourself. But sometimes people who have never been able to really clear their mind and meditate find that that works better for them. And then, of course, there's also intuitive movement, which is where you just let your body move in whatever way it wants to, putting on some music in the background, letting it move. That can also be a meditative experience. So if you're somebody who has not been able to meditate, consider looking at other forms. Just like exercise, find the form of meditation that you like, that is easier for you, and you'll probably find that you can meditate even if you thought you couldn't. A couple more ideas here, and then I will go back to the chat here. So using affirmations. So whereas the mantras and the seed sounds I've taught are all in Sanskrit, affirmations are typically in the language of that you speak. So affirmations that connect to the root. So think about all of the qualities of the root chakra. It's connected to your physical body, your security, stability, abundance, prosperity, money, groundedness, right? Think of all of these things, and you could create affirmations about any of them. So any of the places where you're feeling like, so if I just go in the chat, like especially in the beginning when I was asking people, oh, how do you feel like your root chakra is? And people were saying, well, I'm feeling ungrounded, I'm feeling disconnected, I'm feeling anxious, imbalanced, not much appetite. I'm just kind of looking at some of the things people are saying, anxiety, right? And so think about like where are your root chakra imbalances showing up for you, and how could you create an affirmation around that? So if you're feeling like unsafe and not secure, I am safe, I am secure. And the idea with affirmations is like you don't have to believe them to use them. I was just talking about this I think it was in our Shadow Seekers workshop over the weekend, where I used to hate affirmations. I thought they were stupid and a waste of time because I'm like, I don't believe that. Why am I saying that? But the idea behind them, and then I actually started, one day I was just like, I'm just going to try it. And I realized that it actually did start to have an effect. So the idea is you don't have to believe in it. So you can release that thought. There's nothing you have to do but repeat it. It's easy. Just repeat it. And you repeat it enough, it does start to shift your energy, even if it's just a slight amount. So repeating them is one way to use affirmations, but if you don't like that, you can put them on sticky notes, put them on your bathroom mirror, carry them in your pocket, put them in your purse, put them in places where you will see them and be reminded about them. Program it on your phone so it comes up as a message every hour or something like that, just so you see it and then it's in your consciousness. Other affirmations, let's say like you're having issues feeling okay in your body, like I am feeling at home in my body. You're having issues with money. I am abundant and I welcome prosperity. So the best affirmations to me, you can Google this, root chakra affirmations, and you'll find so many that people have written. But the best affirmations to me are the ones where you take your specific issues and you turn them around and you make affirmations out of them. So think about that. I've mentioned this before, the affirmation jar, where you write them all down, put them in a jar, and then you can pull them out as sort of like almost like a divination and see which affirmation should I work with today. All right, and then let's see. I have two final quick little things to talk about. So the last two, breath work. So breath work is good, excellent for shifting energy. It's different depending on what chakra we're working on. So when we get to talk about the solar plexus, the breath work is going to look very, very different than it looks at the root level. So with the root level, we want breath work that brings the system down, doesn't activate it. Because if we're already feeling anxious and we want to, we're trying to de-escalate the system a little bit. So we want to think about long, deep breaths. So the healing square breath is very good, where you breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, and then you start the whole cycle again. So that's very good. Or you can just do counted breath. And what I would recommend when you're trying to bring the system down is we need a longer exhale than inhale. So you can inhale for a count of 4, but exhale for a count of 6 or 8. By the way, I do this at the dentist since I'm always there for my mouth stuff. And when the sessions are particularly painful or stressful, I try this counting, and it really does work. So I just breathe in for a count of 4 and I breathe out for a count of 8. It starts to slow your heartbeat down, and you really have the ability to regulate yourself in a way that sometimes we're not aware of. Other breaths that you can use that are very good for the root chakra in particular is Nadi Shodhana, which is the alternate nostril breathing. So you essentially breathe in through the left nostril, and usually what you do is put your thumb on the right nostril and then your ring finger on the left nostril. You hold down the right nostril, breathe in through the left, and then you close the left nostril, breathe out through the right, and then you inhale through the right, close that off, breathe out through the left. And you're just going back and forth between the two different sides of your body, of your nostrils. And so what this does is actually very good because it connects the root to the third eye, like I mentioned earlier, and because it's connecting the Ida and the Pingala, or the masculine and the feminine energy channels of the body. So therefore it's very good at connecting root to third eye, and it's very grounding. And then what's especially grounding is just left nostril breathing, because it connects us to the left side of the body, the Ida side, which is the feminine energy channel, and that helps to bring your system down. Whereas if you want to activate it, then you want to breathe in and out through the right nostril. So breath work, always very good. Breath moves prana, which is energy. So if you're trying to do energetic work, breath is oftentimes one of your best bets, or at least a practice to have in your toolbox that you can layer on with others. And then finally, working with your feet. Sometimes we forget this, but the feet, this is the part of the body that's always touching the ground, right? Or at least most of the time touching the ground. So pamper your feet. Give them massages. If you are somebody who's into pedicures, treat yourself to a pedicure. Exfoliate your feet. Use lotion on them. Use foot baths. But just pamper them, and that can be a way to really look to show love to that part of your body, which is going to help you balance your root. Also, one final note on the feet before we finish for tonight. Wear shoes that fit and are comfortable. And you would think that would be go without saying, but fashion does a lot of crazy things, right? So really do think about, if you are somebody who wears a lot of high heels, think about how that is affecting your feet. I personally can't wear them, and I think has messed up my feet and my calves and my shins at times. I guess I should say my calves. But if you have no problem wearing them, continue to wear them. But if you think they're affecting you, really think about, that is something that, if your feet are affected, your root is affected. So really just think about it when you're putting on your shoes every day. All right. So we are going to move into the Q&A. The episode's gone much longer than I thought it was going to today. There was actually no questions sent to me during the Q&A, but if anybody here is live, has any questions, put them in the chat. They can be about anything. Doesn't have to be just about root chakra. It could be about anything related to witchcraft, shadow work, energy work, and I will answer any of those. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what's coming up before we end. Kurt said he really likes guided meditation, and he does a meditation which is the Crystal Countdown by Lori Cabot. Yeah, it's always good to have other suggestions of different meditations that people like. Amanda said, forgive her language, but hers is keep effing going. Said even have it engraved on a ring. Yeah, I mean, honestly, any affirmation that works for you is fantastic. And just sharing it too. Somebody else is going to enjoy that one and love to use it. Let's see here. Chelsea said yes. She said, I finally went to a running shoe store and got fitted properly. It is very worth going to a store where they will fit you for the shoes. Like when I got my really good hiking boots, I went to REI, and my dad treated me for, I think it was for Christmas last year. And it was just really nice to have somebody sit and really spend the time with me and find a pair of boots that were going to fit me. I remember when we were kids, remember there was somebody who would bring the shoes out, at least where we lived. So they would bring the shoes out, and they would spend all this time with you, and they don't really have that. At least I don't see that in shoe stores anymore. But Chelsea said her feet feel so much better now that she's been wearing shoes that fit. Yeah. Kurt said his favorite affirmation saying is focus, commitment, and sheer will. Yeah, very good. And Chelsea said they scanned her feet and watched her gait. Wow, I wish they did that more places. Okay, Glitter said, why does breath work just through the nostrils rather than the mouth? Okay, good question. So there are some breaths that is through the mouth, but you're right, most of them are through the nose. I actually feel like I want to look that question up and do a little bit more research on it, but at least what I know is that the energy seems to be more concentrated when we breathe in and out through the nose. And that is probably why they recommend the nose over the mouth. But it's a very good question. But what I always tell students, especially in the breathwork classes, that if you cannot breathe through your nose, for example, like some people have a lot of terrible allergies, their nose is always stuffed up. Mine is a lot of the time. And so if you can't breathe through your nose, just breathe through your mouth. You're still getting as much of a benefit. But the ancient teachings always said the nose, unless it was specified that, it was a mouth. Like sometimes there is mouth breathing, like the panting breath is always with the mouth open. There's other breaths where you'll breathe in through your nose on the inhale and out through your mouth on the exhale, like cannon breath. But and then Glitter said, I was taught in the nose and out through the mouth. And that is one style of breath too. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And, but then there are some that they teach, in and out through the nose. So for example, like breath of fire, that is always done through the mouth unless a person can't. Oh, sorry. Through the nose unless a person can't. And then we would say, do it through your mouth. But I'll do a little bit more research and find out if there's anything more behind, like why they tell you always nose. But most of the breaths are nose, unless you can't do it that way. But very good question. Anyway, any other questions, put them in the chat. It can be about anything. Let me just tell you about what's coming up really quick. So next week, we're going to continue this. We're going to do an episode on how to balance the sacral chakra. So, and I want to go through all of the 7 chakras and really focus on balancing, a little bit less on like, theory behind the chakras. And if you want more of that theory, definitely think about joining Shadow Seekers, because we have a lot more information on the chakras in the membership. But, okay, so 422 episode on how to balance the sacral chakra. Then we're going to take a break from chakras. And on 429, we're going to do an episode on Beltane, because Beltane will be coming up that week. And then on 429, not 429, on 5/6, there was a request to do an episode on visualization techniques. So I think that's a really great idea, and a lot of people are going to benefit from that. Some people have trouble visualizing, so I'm going to give some tips and strategies on what to do to either strengthen your own visual processes and visualization, or to help you maybe regain some visualization if you don't have any. So I'm going to be doing that. And then, like, if anybody has any suggestions for episodes, I'm always open to those. If it's something that I know about and something that's relevant, I will absolutely consider doing an episode on it. So reach out and let me know if there's something else that you would like to learn about. Now, our Demystifying Witchcraft course is coming out soon. That's my my signature course on witchcraft. It takes you through all various different trainings on what are the gods and goddesses, how to cast a circle, how to call quarters, how to do spell work, the science of magic. It is a 13 module course that even includes a module on astrology, basic astrology for witches. So if you think that is something you might be interested in, if you are newer to the craft, it's an excellent course for you. But even if you've been on the path for a while, haven't had any formal training, or you're just looking to brush up on things, it can be a great course. So watch for that. It should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then, as I mentioned, our Shadow Seekers membership, which is where we do the shadow work and the energy work and balance chakras and everything like that. That is really how we kind of really open ourselves up to, accelerating our spiritual evolution. That membership is opening up in May. So watch for that as well. And we're also going to have a public online Beltane ritual. I think it's on Sunday, 5/4. So we'll be posting more information about that. If you're in Shadow Seekers or Coven of Midnight's Flame, you're already invited to that. You will already get an invitation with your Zoom link. But if you're not in either of those groups, you will be able to purchase a ticket through donation. So watch for more information on that in the future. All right, so that is all I have for tonight, but let me just check in the chat one more time here. So Amanda said not a question, but she says she feels she should share, just jumped on me, sorry, one of her traumatic experiences. She said, a few years ago, I broke my leg in a car wreck, and it was the worst pain I ever felt. And to deal with it, I hummed ohms and other mantras. I Googled in the hospital, and let me tell you, along with controlled breathing, that helped me distract me from the pain when the pills did not, just to show how powerful the mind is. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's how I feel too, like with all those surgeries I've had to do. Sometimes I've had to be awake during some of them, and breath work and mantras. It totally moves. It changes, shifts your energy, and you get through things in such a different way. So what a great story to share too. It's always great to hear people's experiences of how they use these practices and how they worked for them. Glitter says I'm censored. I don't know what you mean by that. I didn't censor anything, but has been some weird stuff in the group where it's been censoring comments. I've noticed it's been like I didn't even notice it until yesterday. It was never your name I saw, but I did see a couple people's comments were um, they were declined, and then I actually had to reinstate them in because I read them. I was like, there's no reason to decline them. So I don't know what's going on with the algorithm. Um, all right. So I'm going to say good night for now because the episode's been going on for a while. But as always, it's so great to have you guys here to spend Tuesday night with you guys. And reach out to me if you need anything, and also leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed, and that just helps us get this out to more people. Subscribe to our Body Mind Witchcraft YouTube channel if you're not already a subscriber, And that way you will not miss a single episode. It also helps us get to 1,000 subscribers, so we'll eventually be able to monetize the channel. I will drop a link here really quick in the chat for anybody who has not already signed up for the Witch's Guide to Shadow Work. There it is. So you can grab the Witch's Guide to Shadow Work if you're not already signed up for that. All right, until next time, have a great night and blessed be everybody.